Welcome to the first video of 2025. Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Phillies Social Media, and today we're going to be having our first video of 2025, so I'd like to welcome everybody in to this video. And I guess before we get into this video, please subscribe if you have not yet. Please turn on the notification bell, like this video, comment on this video, share this video, and let's get into this. So the last video I made was a really depressing one. I was talking about that horrific National League Division Series the Phillies had against the New York Mets, and that was just a horrific way for the Phillies 2024 season to end. And 2024 was an interesting year for the Phillies. Obviously, first division title in 13 years. They take advantage of the Atlanta Braves having a lot of injuries. The Atlanta Braves had a lot of injuries in the 2024 season, and the Phillies really took full advantage of that. And they did win the National League East, but it didn't really amount to much. They ended up losing to the wildcard team, New York Mets, in the division series. Obviously, the Mets did go on to lose, because I hadn't talked, since then. The Mets did go on to lose the championship series to the Dodgers, and then obviously the Dodgers went on to win the World Series. That basically solidifies Dave Roberts as a Hall of Fame manager. It kind of puts the Dodgers choking talks kind of to a rest. It's in some degree. If you still look back over the last decade, the Dodgers have had a lot of missed opportunities. They could have won so many World Series over the past decade, so it's still kind of like a little underwhelming, but they softened the trolls a little bit by winning in 24 against the New York Yankees. That's a whole other story. Juan Soto will get into that. But if you look at this city right now, we're flying high, right? The Philadelphia Eagles, of course, won the Super Bowl 59 against the Kansas City Chiefs. In just a blowout fashion, right? Patrick Mahomes was embarrassed. He was humiliated, and that doesn't, I don't really feel bad for Andy Reid or, the Kansas City Chiefs organization. I don't have any ill will against them, but, come on, I made it so many times over the past, 5-6 years, and, it is what it is. The Eagles should have won 2 years ago, and, of course, they did take care of business this time. First championship since the 2017 season, I guess you could say. I guess it was in 2018 when they won against the New England Patriots and Tom Brady. Of course, Tom Brady present for both Super Bowl victories. But Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, of course, it's just great. It's a great Eagles squad. This guy Cooper DeJean, whoever you say his name, but just such a great squad. Congratulations to the Eagles, and of course the city's happy right now. But I couldn't help but feel, because I'm a baseball fan. Okay, I'm a baseball fan in and out, and I prefer baseball. Just sitting down watching a National Football League game, an NFL game, I can't help but my heart is with baseball. And when I watched the Eagles win this championship and I watched them win the Super Bowl, I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, why can't that be us? Why can't that be us? Why can't that be the Phils? I want to see that for the Philadelphia Phillies. I want to see us win a World Series. And I want it so bad. I thought we could have maybe gotten it in 2024. Especially more so in June when we were smoking hot. Even though we did go on to win the division the second half, pretty much from the first or second week of July on to the end of the season, an absolute disaster from this Phillies team. Really underwhelming. The offense was absolutely dreadful. The bullpen imploded in the postseason against the Mets. That was one of the worst bullpens I've seen probably in about 5 years. Right, and the 2020 Phillies bullpen was the worst bullpen in recent memory with the Phillies. Really not just in all baseball, not just with the Phillies, but that was a horrific bullpen that year. And it was horrific in the postseason, obviously. Just the second half of the season, just an underwhelming below 500 team. And of course, the Mets outperformed us in the second half of the season. Of course, we went on to win the division, as I said, but we got our butts handed to us in the the postseason. So it's frustrating. I sat there, on October night, making that video, very, very displeased with the Phillies' performance in the National League Division Series. And it feels like every year we go into it. Obviously we had a big offseason 2 years ago with the, signing of Trey Turner in December 2022 to that big contract, and, coming off of the World Series win, and even entering 2023, we had a lot of high hopes, right? We had just won the National League pennant. We had lost the World Series in 6 games very narrowly, and I think looking back, we easily could have won that World Series. We have taken a step back ever since 2022, right? We lost in the Championship Series. We choked against the Arizona Diamondbacks in 23. Lost in 7 games. We had a 3-2 lead. We actually had multiple leads in the series. We had a 2-0 lead at home. And we ended up losing the series in embarrassing fashion against the Arizona Diamondbacks, who got their butts handed to them against the Texas Rangers in the World Series. And of course, in the 2024, I mean, incredible. I mean, that was one of the best first halves of the season. I mean, in a very long time. I mean, it really trumped 2011. In that regard. But the season ended very similar to very much like 2011, and in just a million fashion, even more so than 2011. And just the offense just went to sleep, and I think it was almost like the Eagles in the 2023 season when they went into when they lost against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They went in thinking that they could, because the Eagles very similar had a lot of parallels between the Eagles and the Phillies, the 2023 Eagles and the 2024, Phillies, where the Eagles, got a lot of lucky wins, in the first half of the 23 season, and they just played really not great football in the second half, and then, of course, they got embarrassed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, pretty much exposed, and the same thing kind of happened with the Phillies. I think they kind of just thought they could flip a switch once they entered the postseason, and that obviously didn't amount to much. And I mean, going into that, right? I mean, coming off of that, from that embarrassing fashion, the embarrassing display we saw against the New York Mets. I mean, nothing has changed really, hardly at all. Nothing really has changed. This has not been the best offseason for the Phillies, and of course, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, catchers reported today. I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm making this video, and I did take a long hiatus again. But I don't know. I just went back and watched a couple of videos last night from 2021. I just was bored. I just went back and watched a couple of my old videos. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do a video. I'm gonna do my first video 25. I hadn't done my first video of 24 until July. So first video of the new year coming much earlier than last year, obviously. But I mean, very very underwhelming off season. Incredibly underwhelming off season, and I'm displeased in a lot of ways because I want to get over the top. And when you look at this core right now, this core is not getting younger. I mean, every single day we are aging. We're getting older, and I'm just not happy with this, with the way things are going. I mean, Bryce Harper, I mean, you can think about this. He won his first MVP a decade ago. Let that sink in. I mean, he won the National League MVP with the Nats 10 years ago. 10 years ago. I mean, it's just incredible the amount of time that he's been able to play at this elite level. It's incredible. But how many years does he have left in him that, the decline's going to start? I mean, we already saw that Mike Trout, and obviously he's dealing with those weird back problems or whatever. We've already seen the decline with Mike Trout. Hopefully Harper never, that's more of a nagging, behind the scenes injury that's really attributed to that decline. Obviously with that weird back, I don't even know what to even call it. It's something apparently similar to what David Wright had, but this core is not getting younger. That's my point. This core is not getting younger. JT Muto on his final year of his deal, which is hard to believe. JT Muto in the final year of that contract, that 5-year deal he signed entering 2021. He's on his final year of that contract. So, I mean, a lot of questions, a lot of unanswered questions, and, I don't know really what the future holds. And, David Dombrowski did something really smart. It's somewhat smart. I mean, he hasn't had a good trade deadline since he's been here. Every single trade deadline has been weak and wimpy and not good. I mean, even dating back to 21. I mean, he has not really had a great trade deadline at all. And I think maybe there's some times where, right after trade deadline, the first week in August, you're well, that wasn't too bad. And then we kind of get to the end and we're like, holy crap. I mean, that was horrible. I mean, Austin Hayes, the most recent disaster trade deadline acquisition from the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, I could see where he's coming from with it, but I mean, the whole deal was a joke. I mean, it was really a joke. So that really did not turn out well. But David Dombrowski has done a good job at preserving this farm system. Unlike Ruben Amaro Jr., who I respect. I've met Ruben Amaro Jr. a couple of times. He's a good man. You could see we won about him on NBC Sports Philadelphia, but he was not the best general manager. He didn't do the best job, and he sent the whole farm away. First of all, the player development was terrible, but look at this. They did this Phillies team a decade ago, or even 11 years ago, 2014, 2015. I mean, the farm system was the weakest it probably ever was. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, the direction that this team was heading in a decade ago was really abysmal. Really abysmal. They had just traded Jimmy Rollins to the Dodgers. Chase Utley, of course, was still with the organization. Ryan Howard still had 2 years left on his contract. So the state of this team a decade ago was not pretty, that's for sure. And Ruben Amaro Jr. was still at the helm of this organization as the general manager. But I mean, seriously, I mean, I am pleased somewhat that David Dombrowski is not willing to just send the whole farm away. And of course, I'm glad that they decided not to trade Alec Manoah. I still don't think he's going to stay. I mean, of course, he is on a contract year. I think the Phillies have an easy path, I'd say, to the postseason. I mean, I think they do, and I think the National League's it's a very strong. It's much stronger than the AL. Obviously, I mean, the fact that the New York Yankees, were the pennant winner in the American League really is embarrassing in a lot of ways because the elitist Houston Astros are their reign has fallen, right? I mean, they're in decline and they're going to be going through a different phase now. But the National League is still a very strong league, but I still think the Phillies have a good path to entering the postseason. I'm just disappointed with the lack of signings and the lack of trades. Of course, Jeff Hoffman, one of our all-stars that we sent to Arlington, of course, goes on with the Toronto Blue Jays. So that definitely, hurts a little bit. But of course, Jordan Romano, I mean, that was a very good deal, right? I mean, the 1 year, $8.5 million contract he signed, and he's going to kind of slide in there a little bit. So apparently that him and Matt Strom, of course, Matt Strom and Jeff Hoffman had a good bond, and apparently, from what I heard today, Romano and Strom have kind of developed a bond over the past month as well. So hopefully that can kind of fill that void a little bit. But Jeff Hoffman definitely will be missed, definitely. And that's definitely, hard to see him go. But I really like the Romano sign. I think that was definitely one of the highlights of the offseason, the few highlights. And, of course, Jesus Luzardo for the Miami Marlins, of course, hasn't really lived up to it yet. But, of course, he's going to be sliding in that starting rotation. And I think that was a good trade. That was a good trade. I was happy with that trade. And hopefully he can develop into a solid starter. And that's definitely something we need. So, I mean, that's pretty much been the highlights. And, of course, Max Kepler on the 1 year deal. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the guy is this isn't 2019 anymore. This isn't 2019 where Max Kepler was doing incredible things and, hitting 30-plus home runs in a season. I mean, he hasn't been good in, multiple seasons. So, I mean, I'm indifferent. I'm indifferent about the signing. And, there were some talks that maybe they were going to put Harp back in right, and they were going to sign Alonso and put him at first. I mean, first of all, obviously that's officially dead now. Not only after the Max Kepler signing, because that just basically made it impossible, for Harper to go back in the outfield. It stood over surplus of outfielders. But also with Pete Alonso going back to New York Mets, obviously, which I want to get into that New York Mets talk for a little bit before I head off here. But I mean, that's officially dead now. But I mean, off season, I mean, a C- at best, maybe a C+, maybe a C. I don't know. It's not great, but obviously, I did like the Jesus Luzardo. I mean, I think that was a pretty good trade, especially what you gave up. Not a whole lot, and I think that was a good trade. That was a very good trade. But he's basically admitted that he's done. I mean, this is, pitchers and catchers are reporting today. So again, I think this team will make the playoffs. I don't think we're winning the division at all. I don't think I think the Atlanta Braves, I think, probably had the best chance of winning this division. But I think it's still I think it's likely that we'll make the playoffs. But I don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? This isn't 2022 anymore, where you could sit back and say, hey, you know what? I give him credit for making it there. I give him credit for, really just defying all the odds and getting there. Like, this isn't, well, first of all, we won the pennant in 22, obviously. And last year, we got knocked out in the division series. And even if we had won the pennant again in 24, so let's say, and had lost to the Yankees, just hypothetically, then it still would have been, not as disappointing, but still would have been disappointing. I still would be sitting here saying that's a failure, right? That's a failure. You didn't win the World Series, and World Series is a bust. When you go out and spend boatloads of money on Trey Turner and, do all these things, it's like the expectations get higher. And, in 22, I remember coming on that 6-game recap and saying, hey, you know what? I'm disappointed that we lost, but I give this team a hell of a lot of credit for fighting. But I don't have that same attitude anymore. You know what I mean? And obviously I still give him credit for fighting, but I'm just saying, the expectations are higher. And of course, Juan Soto, I don't understand why he didn't want to go back to New York Yankees. I understand the money was slightly less, but is he really that worried about it? He just, my gosh, $765 million. And I said for a long time, I've been doing this. Obviously I'm not really that active anymore. But I remember I started this, pretty much in late 2018, and I've been doing this since 2019. And I even had chatter around 2020 and 2021. It was probably more about 2021 when I said that Juan Soto be baseball's first $500 million player, and he blows that out of the water, 265 plus 500 million. So, the New York Mets, Steve Cohen, that's you can't say we didn't see it coming. I knew he was willing to spend that kind of money. I just didn't know he was going to land Juan Soto. I was surprised to see him decline the New York Yankees offer. Ultimately, what do I expect out of the New York Mets? Who knows, man? The Mets done stuff like this, and it just, you can't not consider them for, front runner for this division. They could win a division, and, of course, they did bring Alonso back. They've had a great offseason. They've had the best offseason probably out of any team. Dodgers are up there too as well. I don't think the Dodgers are going away either. But all this, for one guy, mind you, in 22, he kind of had a rocky, when he went from Washington to San Diego, he kind of had a rocky year. Right, so this isn't just, I understand that he's elite, and, he is one of the best players in baseball, obviously, but I don't really think any guy's worth $765 million, and I just can't believe it's nearly 6 years ago, and Harper signed with the Phillies for $330 million for 13 years. We all thought that was a boatload of money, and here we are, not even 6 years later, and Juan Soto, more than double. So eventually it will be $1 billion player. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I imagine it's going to happen at some point. So it's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. So, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. That will do it. I hope to come back pretty soon and just talk about this team, and I hope to be fairly active. Of course, I'm going to be active as I can. I'm very busy. So, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Please turn on the notification bell, like this video, comment on this video, share this video. And I will talk to you all later. Let's go, Phillies. I'm Luke, and I'll see you guys.